Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mayor and City Council meeting for the month of January in the year of our Lord 2021. We'll begin with our pledge to the flag from Councilman Hale, if you would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Councilman. For the roll call, let it be noted that Councilman Haynes is not with us this evening. He is excused. He was deployed as part of his duties with the Maryland National Guard to our nation's capital. Hopefully there's no further unrest there, but our National Guard is there. So he is excused. Other than that, everyone else is present and accounted for. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We're going to begin with the approval of the minutes of the December 9th and December 14th regular meetings. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move to approve both sets of minutes.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. We have a motion from Councilman Vigliotti, a second from Councilwoman Fuller. Is there any discussion, amendments, anything else that you wish to see on these minutes? All right. With that, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of the December 9th and December 14th meetings, signify with your thumbs up. And anyone opposed? No, we are unanimous. With that, we're going to receive a delegation this evening. Representing Meads Crossing is Mr. Steve Smith and Mr. Ed Gold, here to present to us regarding the park impact fees and what impact it may have on Meads Crossing. I'm going to ask Jim, did you want to do anything before we have them speak?
Nothing really to add since the workshop, so I think we should open the floor and then have some discussion afterwards.
Very good. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Appreciate this opportunity. I did listen to the workshop, and since then, on Friday, I believe I sent out an email that hopefully you all have seen. And in that, I included the original DARA and then the revision language that provided for the park impact fee for us to pay it. And so in our, I guess in our opinion, that we've been paying it, and we would just, like that to carry on as is and not pick up another park impact fee on top of the one that we have. So, Ed, if you have anything to add, but otherwise, I think what we submitted speaks for itself, and happy to entertain any questions.
Very good. Let's confirm from council that you did receive the email in question. All right, everyone did receive it, had a chance to review it. Very good. Mr. Gold, did you want to add anything?
I don't, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions for the representatives from Meads Crossing? This is your opportunity to grill them or inquire about their reasoning. Anyone? All right.
The
No.
only thing,
Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
that I would like to say is that during our discussions, we discussed whether or not the population at Meads Crossing would actually have an impact on our parks. And even though you have provided the open space, I feel, and I think at least Councilman Hale feels the same way, that even though you've provided this, I still think that that population will have an impact on our parks.
Yes, and I would agree. I mean, and we recognize that, or we hope so. We'd like our kids to play on your teams. So, and that's why we're, again, as we stand today, for every lot in section 1 and 1A, we're paying $500 a lot. There's approximately 40 lots left in there, I believe. And then for every lot in section 2, we're paying the full $1,000. So, as I indicated in my email, we're contributing over $250,000 over the life of the community.
Okay, and am I wrong in that the pool in this area is included in that open space, if you will, or
It is.
available to the community? Is that correct?
Yes, so if you, the way the pool is set up, let me back up a little bit. We meet the open space requirements, which are strictly land. There's no
Okay.
required improvements. And then we're providing the pool and rec facility as an additional enhancement. And all members of the homeowners association will be members. And then depending on what enrollment and usage is, the homeowners association can elect to expand that beyond Meads Crossing to allow other residents in the area to use it. But it really depends on usage, and if it's being underutilized, then I'm certain they'll do that.
So it would be up to the HOA to determine if the community could use those amenities.
Correct.
Is that the same case for the walking trail, Steve?
No, the walking trails are open. In fact, we tie in, or we will tie into Meadowbrook as Jim's aware. We've got a direct path to Meadowbrook so that people can use our trail system.
And I would say this to the council members and the mayor, that if you haven't walked the trails that are already in place, you ought to. My wife and I are up there frequently, and we do it just as a matter of exercise. But even in the winter, they're quite nice.
So in addition to the amenities we already spoke about, you do also have the dog park. I believe you have tennis courts. You have other amenities. Are they also going to be exclusive to Meads Crossing, or will they be available to the community as well?
I don't have a good answer for that. The dog park, I don't think we're going to prohibit. There's not going to be locks on anything. I don't know that people would want to drive to Meads to use our dog park. I don't. We're not going to have anything that stops them. That being said, if I can't promise, we have control of the homeowners association for the next couple years, but once we hit a critical mass, we turn it over to the community, and at that point, they can do as they wish.
Right. Okay. To the rest of council, do you have any further questions for the gentleman while they're with us?
I would also say, Mr. Mayor and the rest of the council, that, I'm just looking at the screen, only Jim has been with us since the very, very beginning. And the land plan was carefully thought out. And we call them pocket parks, but, throughout the community, there's all this open space, which was, carefully planned way back when. And ultimately, that was taken into consideration versus trying to, if I can use a vernacular, jam it with, more houses where open space is. So a lot of those considerations were taken into account, and, I guess if you're using common math now, 14 years ago.
Very good. With that, I'll give council one more opportunity to pose any questions. This will be brought up under new business later, and we can make our final decision on that. Anything further?
Thank you.
All right, with nothing else, you two are excused if you wish. You can hang around if you desire. But we will be discussing that and hopefully getting a decision under new business later in this meeting.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, I'll now ask the council if they have any conflicts of interest over anything on the agenda this evening.
No, sir.
Nope. Okay, Councilman Hale, is your screen frozen or are you still with us? There you are.
I'm getting like every 10 words. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, very good. Hopefully you'll be able to hang here with us and get as much out of it as you can. With that, as a note from Wednesday, we talked about the Bay Restoration hardship exemption. Initially, that was put under for introduction. Since it is a resolution, not an ordinance, it does not need to be introduced, so it will be up for approval later this evening. Up for adoption, we have ordinance 07-2020. This is amendment to chapter 153 regarding park impact fees. I will entertain a motion, and please specify what your motion is.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a maybe a point of order question, or maybe just a process question, if I may?
Go ahead, Councilman.
So when making the motion for the park impact fee ordinance, when that motion is made, do we have to specify whether or not we wanted to retroactively apply to developments that are in process right now? Or is that a point of amendment that we make once, if it comes up if it's seconded?
No, my suggestion to you this evening is that you would make a motion to approve or not the ordinance as presented. The applicability we will address later on, and that'll be essentially affecting the DARAs of those developments.
And so would that come under?
Too.
Okay, so would that come under new business tonight?
That will be new business tonight, the applicability of it, yes.
I will make the motion to approve the park impact fees as presented.
Very good. We have a motion. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, we have motion from Mayor Pro Tem Foster, second from Councilman Bigliotti. I'll open the floor to the council for any discussion on the ordinance. Okay. With no discussion, we'll then put it to a vote. The motion is to approve ordinance 07-2020, amendment to chapter 153 park impact fees. All in favor signify with your thumbs up. And any opposed? We are unanimous. Very good. Moving into resolution 2020-14. This will outline the park impact fee figures themselves. I will.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, there was some background noise and part of what you said got cut off.
Oh, very good. I am looking for a motion on resolution 2020-14, which is outlining the figures of the park impact fees.
So moved.
Are you moving to approve or?
Oh, to approve, I apologize. Motion to approve.
Very good, thank you. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Very good. Motion from Councilman Bigliotti, a second from Mayor Pro Tem Foster, and we are open for discussion from council. Go ahead. Anyone? All right. For the sake of clarity, resolution 2020-14 outlining the actual fees. We will read them aloud here, simply stating that the park impact fee, which is the new fee, shall be $1,000 per dwelling, and the fee in lieu of open space will be $1,500. Both those payable when they receive their building permit. With no further discussion, we'll put to the vote. All in favor of resolution 2020-14 park impact fees signify with your thumbs up. And any opposed? That is unanimous as well. Moving into resolution 2020-15, the fee schedule for 2021. This includes the new park impact fees, along with all of the other fees that we charge for various things. I will entertain a motion, and again, specify what your motion is.
I will make a motion to approve the fee schedule for 2021.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. The motion from Mayor Pro Tem Foster, the second from Councilman Hale. Is there any discussion from the council? All right, everyone is clear on what all of the fees mean on the list? Very good. With no further discussion, all in favor of resolution 2020-15 fee schedule 2021 signify with your thumbs up. Anyone opposed? No, we are unanimous. Resolution 2021-01. This is our monthly water allocation. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Very good. Motion from Councilman Vigliotti, second from Councilwoman Fuller. Is there any discussion on the water allocation? Very good. All in favor of approving Resolution 2021-01 signify with your thumbs up. Anyone opposed? We are unanimous in favor. Finally, under adoption, we have Resolution 2021-02. This is our Bay Restoration Hardship Exemption. This is outlining what criteria we will use to allow exemptions for our residents regarding the Bay Restoration fee that is on their quarterly water bills. I will entertain a motion. Please specify your motion.
So move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. Motion from Councilman Bigliotti, the second from Mayor Pro Tem Foster. Is there any discussion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor of approving Resolution 2021-02 Bay Restoration Hardship Exemption, signify with your thumbs up. Anyone opposed? No, we are unanimous. All right, Mr. Weeprick, do you have anything to add for your city manager report, sir?
Just a brief update on well 17. The pump and motor were pulled today, and it looks like they are both bad. So it's not going to be the least expensive possibility, but at least the wiring and other controls are good. So it's not the absolute worst case either. So we'll have the final figures. You'll see some of those in your financials for next month. But wasn't the good news we were hoping for, that it was either the pump or the motor. It was both. So just wanted to give you an update. That's all I have for this evening.
Very good. Any questions for the city manager on his report? Okay. As pertaining to that and one other item, I will mention to council, you will be receiving an email from me later this evening after the meeting regarding 2 emergency purchases that I did sign. The first is related to well 17. The second is for repairs to a screen mechanism at the wastewater treatment plant. Our city code does require that I provide in writing to the council those things, so I will be sending you an email later tonight pursuant to that. If you have any questions, feel free, you may ask them now or in response to the email. All right, with that, any questions on departmental reports as they were presented to you, council? Okay. Mr. Gullo, do you have anything with your legal report for us this evening?
Yes, I'd like to follow up on a discussion that we had last week, specifically talking about the election. As you know, I talked to you about that the election is coming up and we have 3 seats in May, and that seems like a far time off, but as Clara and I have gotten into it and setting the dates, we really don't have a lot of time to act if you all want to change course on how we are going to do the actual voting. And so I just wanted to kind of throw out some dates so you can see what we're dealing with here. But we have to publish, according to our code, what's happening, meaning the notice of election and the nomination procedures and everything has to be published by March 1st. So that means that obviously, if you decided, for example, to say we're going to have mail-in voting other than in-person voting, something different than we normally do, that would mean we'd have to suspend those provisions of our charter, not necessarily charter, but code. And we would have to take action to do that at our February meeting. And we would have to do it in a fashion that would be an emergency legislation so that you could actually introduce it and pass it the same night. And so for that to occur at the February meeting, that's really only 2 weeks away for us to do this work. So one of the things that Claire and I are working on is that a lot of this information goes into the newspaper you all publish. And that has to be in by this Wednesday, right? There's always these deadlines. That gets published in the middle of February. So what we tried to do is Claire has written the documentation so that it's going to basically tell people there's an election coming up. We know when that day is, right? That's May 3rd. That if you want to register to vote, you have to register by April 5th. That's a statutory day as well, so that could be in there. If you want to run for office, you have to do that by March 22nd. That's another statutory date. So we can do all those things in the advertisement, and then that would put the decision on how you actually want to do the voting until your February meeting. Of course, you need to tell us how you want to do it so we can draw up the necessary legislation. The thing you have to realize is that while all of that will work fine, we can't certify the election, which is what the state election board wants to know. We won't be able to certify our election by election day if we do mail-in votes, because mail-in votes can still be mailed by election day, which means we wouldn't get them until after election day. And if the bulk of people might vote by mail, it could be up to a week before we could certify our election. So that has to be considered. Again, you can have the discussion at your February work session, and then we could quickly decide between the work session and the regular meeting what legislation you'd have to pass if you decided to do something different. All that being said, what you have right now will work, meaning that given all the COVID consciousness that people have, you still can come in person, 7 to 7 on election day, May 3rd, no problem. And if you did not want to come in to vote, all you have to do is contact town hall and you get an absentee ballot and you can vote by mail via absentee ballot. So we have all that laid out. If you don't want to do that, we need to do something different. Wanted you to think about that because time's short and February is probably your decision date.
So for clarity's sake, regarding our absentee ballot system, the key there is that they must be received by election day. Is that correct?
That's correct. That they have to be postmarked prior to election day and received by the end of the night. So 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock when the polls close.
Okay.
Are we still, go ahead, I'm
No,
sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem Foster, go ahead, please.
Are we still publishing the record?
Yes.
That was the newspaper I referred to, that the
I know.
deadline record is Wednesday to be published in February, but there won't be a March edition.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if we were still doing it.
Yes, we currently are. Design Associates agreed to take on one more round of it as we continue our search. And then after this round, hopefully we have someone else in place on city staff to take over it. But they've been willing to help us out and do another round of it. So the intention as of this point is to keep the record going. And then whoever fills Nancy's shoes will kind of help determine what the future of it is and how it's going to be laid out. From council, I don't want to have to wait till February to get an idea of how everyone's feeling on this. If we remain how we've been doing it, as Jay stated, you have in-person voting from 7 to 7 that Monday, and absentee is available as always. Again, must be received by the close of voting on election day. The other option is we try to take on mail-in voting, which the main difference being that is when we receive them maybe later, and the exact rules will have to be figured out. And I feel like that's going to be a rather tricky process. So I'd like to get an idea from council members how you feel. Where are you leaning one way or the other? Do you feel what we have is sufficient? Councilman Bigliotti, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't mind at all, heading up or beginning the discussion on it. I don't believe that we do need to change the way that we are currently handling things. I think that between, in-person voting, if there are concerns about in-person voting, I'm sure that there's a way that we can set up the flow of the room or alter things within the room where the voting happens to make it possible. And at the same time, I also feel that absentee voting is probably going to be the safest alternative for people who do not want to vote in person, because it necessarily creates a traceable record of someone's vote. So nobody's losing a ballot. Ballots aren't getting lost in the mail. There's no concern about fraud or anything like that either. Not to mention the fact that we'll have a result on election night, which is, the traditional American way to do things. Again, it's not like there's 1 week until the election and people only have 1 week to request an absentee ballot. We were months and months away from the election. So I think that with proper advertising and letting people, more, I mean, I know we let them know every year, but if we maybe find a way to take a couple of extra steps this year to let them know that if they want to vote absentee, that is a possibility. I think that, we will have all of our bases covered.
And I think you touched on an important piece there. The most important thing, well, starting with, I think our absentee ballot system is probably one of the best I've seen, one of the most generous and easy to use. The main thing is getting the word out, and that's going to fall a lot on us as elected officials with our Facebook presence, with who we talk to in the community. That's going to be those who are running for office to let people know that that is an option. I think we'll have a discussion with our IT department to make sure that it is heavily promoted on the city social media pages. But I think that's going to be the main thing, is that it needs to be advertised and everyone needs to know. If there's anything else that goes out, is there a water bill cycle that goes out during this term? I believe there might be.
March.
Okay, maybe there's an option that something gets printed on the water bills to this effect as well. I mean, any way we can get the word out is the most important thing. Maybe even signs around town. Mayor Pro Tem Foster, I think you wanted to speak.
Basically, I agree with Councilman Vigliotti. As long as we get the word out every way possible, and make sure that people understand that absentee and mail-in is kind of the same thing.
Right.
That there is no criteria for absentee.
That's
Correct. And just to throw out some dates so you know, absentee ballots by our code are available 3 weeks prior to Election Day. So that's April 12th. So you have 3 weeks to request, 3 weeks to get. I mean, so it's plenty of time.
Another question. I never voted absentee in the city. Do they have to come in and get that? Can they?
It can be mailed to them.
It can be mailed to them?
If they request it, and Claire, if you want to step in, you may. I believe they can request, we can mail it to them. Let's keep in mind, if you've been keeping tabs on the quality of our postal service at the time.
Yeah.
If we have 3 weeks from when they become available until they're due back, it's very possible 2 of those weeks are taken up with just sending it to them. So they can, depending on the state of the postal service, they can also come pick up, or I'm sure we could figure out another way to make this happen.
I think we need to figure out another way to make it happen. I didn't get any December bills. What's today's date?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, you still have electricity, so I think you're okay so far.
But, I didn't hear about it till people wanted to charge me late fees.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the city's run into similar issues with some of our bills as well, where the check wasn't received when it was supposed to have been, even though it was mailed in plenty of time. So that's something else we need to consider. I mean, obviously,
we need to figure out another way for people to get these absentee ballots.
Yep, I agree. So that's something we can work on, how we're going to do it, what sort of, lack of a better word, campaign we're going to use to make sure that everybody knows. We have to keep in mind, not everyone uses social media, not everyone reads the record, not everyone uses the internet. So we need to find every possible way to let people know that there are 2 options for them. Anyone else? Your thoughts and opinions?
I'll just say I agree wholeheartedly, and as long as we facilitate the absentee ballots.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, because that helps Claire and I figure things out, that we're going to keep our general process and then worry about souping up our advertising and things like that when we get closer to that point, but and the poll layout and things like that. But that gives us a lot of time to do that. So thank you. That's all I have for my report.
Well, I'm going to ask you one more thing. At what point, if we decide to change the polling location, due to social distancing protocols. At what point do we need to make that decision, Jay?
March 1st, our average. So March 1st is when it has to be published. So that would be next month. And I would think that, by February, which is really 2 weeks away for us, we would have some general idea of how we might want to accomplish what we're going to do. So,
Okay.
but yeah. So when I say March 1st, I mean your February meeting.
Very good. Councilman Vigliotti?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one final thought, or maybe an idea, I guess. Is it possible to, is it a law that voting has to occur inside of a building? Like, so for example, could we set up like a massive tent or something outside of the police station, but do voting inside there? That way, if there's inclement weather or something, that's not a factor. If we have to be inside to vote, we technically would be inside. And then the convenience of the police station as a location is still available to us.
It is not a law that you have to vote inside. The practical reality is that our voting machines are going to require electricity to make them go. So all of the mechanics have to occur in a narrow area. The problem is the people waiting, because there's only so many stations that you can set up to and vote. So it's always going to be kind of one at a time. So it's the people waiting that we're really talking about. And possibilities meaning that if you wanted, and these are things we can think about, but we have an election board that the mayor is going to appoint of 5 people, and they run the election. We don't have enough time to change that. That's a charter requirement, but it says that they can hire clerks. So the idea being, if you had more places that could check people in, you'd have the ability to service more people without them waiting in line. But that means you're going to have more workers together and more equipment that you have to hire. So it's a cascading effect. But those ideas.
Will we have the workers, the machines, or whatever it takes to identify people who do an absentee ballot and show up to vote?
Yes. If you request an absentee ballot, which is why it's easier for us to do it that way, your form, when you request it, takes you off the voter roll, not really
Okay.
off, marks you on the voter roll, so that if you came in, it shows that you requested an absentee ballot. You could say, I never voted my absentee ballot, in which case they would hand you a provisional ballot, which would go in a provisional pile, and then that would get fixed out later. Or you come in and say, here's my absentee ballot, but you will not get to vote twice.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I think that's been handled very well in the past. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Mayor Pro Tem Foster. That's always a concern. Councilor Vigliotti, to your point, I appreciate the creativity of doing the outdoor with the tent. I think you're going to invite some security issues there with ensuring power is provided and isn't messed with, or things like that. So I appreciate the creativity. I don't think that's a can of worms that we wish to pry open at this point. But in the meantime, everyone think a little creativity won't hurt to kind of figure out how we may want to handle location or locations, whatever's going to make this easier to get people to vote. I'd love to see the same or higher turnout than we had in the last election. It's great to see that we've been building. I don't want to lose that simply because of the pandemic. We haven't given people ample opportunity to cast their vote. So with that, we will move on. Anything else from you, Mr. Gullo? I'm sorry.
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Gullo on his report? Okay. Hearing none, we shall move on. We have nothing under old business. New business. Let's go ahead, and we're going to stray out of the agenda slightly. And item number 1 is going to be the applicability of the park impact fees. So let's start with just discussion, and then whatever motion someone wants to make out of this discussion, I will accept and put forward. So who would like to speak about the applicability of park impact fees? Councilman Vigliotti, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I do not mind whatsoever beginning discussion on it, but it strikes me that the legislation that we've passed tonight should not apply retroactively to developments that are in process. I mean, from a very simple standpoint, we do have contracts with these developers. We do have a set of agreements with them that are currently in place. And while I certainly appreciate the idea that we do need to find ways to fund our parks, and as Councilwoman Fuller had previously mentioned, maybe we have to be creative about finding ways to fund our parks. I think it speaks to questions of, or not questions, but matters of integrity and I guess attractiveness for future developers regarding whether or not we adhere to the contracts that we previously set as they are. It's again, I mean, I keep coming back to this idea of integrity, that our word is through these contracts. And if we want to attract future developers, and if we want to be true to the word that we have established previously, I think that we can't retroactively apply this to developers. And again, I completely understand and agree with arguments about the need for park funding. But at the same time, let's just say for the sake of argument that we did say, okay, well, we are going to apply this retroactively at this point, right? To that, two things. What's to stop us with the current development? Why don't we go back further then and say any house that's been built within the last 2 or 3 years should be paying some kind of fee at this point? That's the first thing. And then the second point that I guess I kind of want to make is that how going forward is anybody going to be willing to enter into a contract with us, not just in this regard, but with anything? If 5 years from now we're going to say, oh well, we want to change something, and now you owe us more money because we've decided 5 years down the road that we want more money at this point, reasons notwithstanding. And I'll rest my argument there for the moment. If anybody else has any thoughts or wants to jump in.
Okay, so I will open it up. I do just want to clarify one thing. I understand you're referring to the contract being the DARA that we have with the developer, and I agree with most everything you said. When you use the word retroactively is what kind of gets me, because we're talking about houses that are not built yet. So they don't exist at the moment. What's stopping us from going back and saying houses built 3 years ago? Because they already got their building permit. These are properties that don't have a building permit, which is what this is based on. I'm not arguing your point saying we should or should not. I just want to clarify that we're talking about things that don't exist at this time, they're future. Who else would like to speak?
I said I'll jump in now.
Yep.
Along those same lines, and I don't, I don't think it's responsible of us to not honor these agreements that we already have, hoping to make extra money that, regardless of what we charge them, we're not going to make enough to continue on with the works in the park. That's going to have to come from somewhere else. They are, I mean, as far as Meads is going, they are paying. They're paying an adequate amount of money for what we're expecting. I'm not sure, and maybe Jay can clarify, as far as in the agreements, what exactly we're allowed to modify or change or expect of them. Because Meads, to me, via the email, they very specifically set this money aside as a park impact fee. We don't have that with Meadowbrook, I guess. I mean, they did the fee in lieu of, but I honestly cannot remember exactly as far as the DARs go. So if Jay can clarify.
Woman, the package that Steve sent to you has the blocks that you need to put this together, and I'll kind of explain it from the beginning. And the fact that we know we're talking about two fees that you just enacted tonight. One existed before, and one is new. And one we'll call fee in lieu of. And when we compare the developments, Meadowbrook did not provide open space, so they are paying a fee in lieu of. And Meads Crossing did provide open space. We specify that in their DARA, so they are not paying a fee in lieu of. So that ends that one. The new fee for everyone is what we're calling the park impact fee for park development, okay? And the way the DARs are all written for everybody is if a fee is adopted by the city that applies to everyone, then it would apply to that development. So when we take Meadowbrook, it's pretty straightforward. The fee applies to everyone. They aren't paying anything for that now. They would now have to start paying the park impact fee, not retroactive, as the mayor pointed out, but going forward to every building permit they pull from tomorrow on, okay? But the conflict, which is why it's in front of you tonight, is that we, by DARA, by contract, had Meads Crossing starting to pay a park impact fee that was not required back in, was it 17? I think we did it, yeah, February of 17. And I want to put some color on that. Why did that happen? It isn't related to parks at all. I believe back in 17, what happened was the city, some of their plans were about to expire and they needed an extension at that point in time. And the city was concerned about, should we extend these plans, extend our approvals? If we extend our approvals, that means we couldn't add new things. And one of the things we were concerned about adding was parks. So the deal was made at that point in time saying, hey, you start paying a park impact fee, meaning no one else in the city was paying that right now. You start paying that, we'll ramp it up from 500 to 1,000 because that's where we eventually think we're going to go. But since you're kind of already horses halfway out of the barn, we're only going to charge 500 now. And we memorialized that in that DARA, and that was what you were provided. That's why we contractually have that. So obviously the argument that can be made from the Meads Crossing folks is we're already paying this. So when we're paying $1,000 a unit, why would we pay another 1,000 for the exact same thing? Because that's what it is. And that's the issue before you tonight, is how you're interpreting the DARA. And perhaps, I mean, if there's a concern, maybe it should be briefed out more fully to you all. But you know, the documents that you were provided in email are the salient documents here.
Right, and I think that's probably the best explanation we've received so far. I'll give a chance for any of the other two council members to speak. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So Jay, based on your explanation, going forward, any permits that Meads pulls, they will continue to pay what they're paying.
That under that explanation, for phase one, they would pay, or I guess it's 1 and 1A, $500, and moving forward, they would pay 1,000 per their agreement, which happens to be what we are adopting anyway.
Right,
So
that
yes.
would, anything after 1 or 1A would be $1,000, as the DARA explains. Whatever they have left in 1 or 1A will be the $500 as outlined in the DARA.
Okay.
So what we're seeking, if we were to make a motion and you wanted to respect and stay with the DARA, we would simply be stating that we'll impose no additional fees to the developer. So if someone wants that motion or wants to craft their own, I'm willing to accept one.
Well, I was going to check. I can make the motion, but does Daryl have anything else he wanted to say?
Councilman Hale, thank you for joining us again. Would you like to add anything?
I'm getting every 10 words. Long story short, I have no problem. You know, what we have out of the ground now, or what's already been approved. I don't see it as right and befitting of us to change those fees. Anything after that, fair game. We all got our property tax increases, so that's good news for us and the developer. So theoretically, you know, again, this is something we've been talking about for a long time. We're finally doing something. And we got to get these fees in here, people. That's all there is to it. It's business. They're business people. They understand that. We're going to simply pass it on to their client. It's not going to make the house unbuildable for, you know, $1,000. I just don't see it that way.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. Who would like to make one and specify your motion, please?
No, I thought Judy made one.
I hadn't made it yet, but you're still talking. I was going to let you finish.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the motion would be to continue with the agreement that we have with Meads Crossing through their DARA as far as our impact fee goes. But
I don't think
Yeah.
there is, but I
I think
think
that's it.
I believe the motion is that we not impose any additional fees to Meads Crossing. Is that regarding park impact fees?
Right.
okay, okay, that's it.
So that is the motion, that we
I'll
impose
second.
no additional park impact fees to Meads Crossing. So the
Okay.
motion was from Councilwoman Fuller. The second was from Mayor Pro Tem Foster. Is there any further discussion from the council regarding this topic? Okay. Are there any questions on the motion as it was stated? I want to make sure that everyone's crystal clear on what the vote is. Okay. So a vote in the affirmative will result in us not imposing any additional fees regarding parks to Meads Crossing. All in favor, signify with your thumbs up. Anyone opposed?
Mr. Mayor, I apologize. I lost audio. Could you say, if we vote in the affirmative, what is it?
That we impose no additional park fees to Meads Crossing. So essentially keeping the DARA in place, and they would not pay anything additional. Okay. Are you with us, Councilman Hale? Okay. Well, we did already take the vote. We did have a quorum during that period, so we will count the vote as 3 in favor. And let me do a point of order to Jay. How do you wish to count Councilman Hale?
Until he comes back, we count as an abstain since it was a not a vote, and then he can just cast his vote when he comes back.
Very good. Thank you, sir. That's how the vote shall be made. Mr. Smith, Mr. Gold, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate your consideration as always.
We appreciate the development going on out there. You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do you want me to send Daryl a? Oh, he's completely off now, isn't he? I was going to offer to send him a text message to see if I could explain what's going on to him. But if he's off, I think he's just completely off at this point, right?
I think he got booted. When he comes back on, I'll give him one chance, and then I may just call him and put him on speakerphone, and we can conduct it that way. Another point of order, Mr. Gullo, is it appropriate to request his vote when he returns separately?
Yeah, I think that you haven't moved on to any other business. So when he gets back in contact with him by phone, you can say, "We didn't catch your vote. How did you vote?" And then Clara can adjust it. If he actually votes one way or the other, you just forget the abstain stuff and just put in whatever vote it is. If
Very
we
good.
don't get him back and the meeting is over, then we'll have the abstain.
All right, here's what we will do. I'm going to put him on speakerphone so we can at least get that before we move on. I think it's important that everyone's voice is heard. Councilman Hale, you're on speakerphone in the meeting right now. We did hold the vote, and I wanted to make sure that your vote was cast. Are you?
Okay, great.
Are you in the affirmative?
Okay, what was the motion?
Very good. The motion was that we not impose any additional park fees to Meads Crossing. Basically, that the DARA in place will remain, and they'll pay nothing extra to that. So
Other
that
than the 1,000 they already paid.
that's correct. Yes.
I can live with that, yes.
Okay. So your vote is in the affirmative, correct?
It is.
All right. Very good. Let it be noted that Councilman Hale's vote was affirmative. Are you going to join us back on video, sir?
I'm going to try to. It's very frustrating. It's very, in any case, I'm working on it.
Very good. If you're I'm not able to, you can call me back and I'll put you on speaker for the remainder of the meeting. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. All right. With that taken care of, we can move on into our new business. Number 2 is what we are. Monthly financial report. Do I have a motion to approve the monthly financial support as presented this evening?
So moved.
And seconded.
Very good. We have a motion from Councilman Vigliotti, a second from Councilwoman Fuller. Is there any discussion? Okay. Everyone is good. All in favor of approving the monthly financial report, signify with your thumbs up. Any opposed? Very good. That is unanimous of the members present. Next, we have our accounts payables. Do I have a motion to approve the accounts payables as presented?
So moved.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Very good. We have motion from Mayor Pro Tem Foster, second from Councilwoman Fuller. Is there any discussion on the accounts payables? All right. All in favor, signify with your thumbs up. Anyone opposed? And those present are in the affirmative. We'll move on to council member reports. We'll start this evening with Mayor Pro Tem Foster. Do you have anything for us tonight?
Nothing to report.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Fuller, do you have anything for us?
Planning Commission did not have a meeting in December, so no, nothing new.
Very good. Councilman Vigliotti, what do you?
No, what is that? What? I'm talking.
Very good. Councilman, it is on you then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have the police departmental report for the month of December 2020. The total number of dispatched or generated calls for service numbered 318. The total number of citations issued numbered 28. The total number of warnings issued were 39. The total number of adult arrests were 6, and the total number of juvenile arrests was 1. I just wanted to make a brief note that this past Saturday, January 9th, was National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And so I just wanted to offer thanks to everyone at the department for their service, their commitment to law enforcement, and for the countless ways that they protect and enrich our community. You know, we really do have a wonderful force. And, you know, I know all of us couldn't even begin to imagine what our town would be like without them. And so, you know, I think it's appropriate that we say thank you to them and that, you know, we appreciate them very much. And then, Mr. Mayor, just briefly, I was going to bring 2 quick things up under new business. If it's okay, I'll just bring them up briefly here. The first is that I wanted to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the other night for agreeing to you know, help look into the idea of the cover sheet for legislation. And I wanted to offer my assistance with that if there was anything that I could do or anything that you needed with that. And the second thing that I wanted to bring up that I want to explore, you know, in the coming months, and Mr. Mayor, you and I have spoken about this before, and I know some of us have casually talked about it before, is the idea of trying to look into turbines for the sewer system, so that the flow of, you know, I've been reading these articles about these municipalities and these cities who install these turbines, however you pronounce it, everybody pronounces it some different way, where the flow of water through the pipes causes these turbines to generate electricity, and these cities and municipalities are able to cut some of their electricity costs. And so I was thinking that that would be something worth, you know, looking into now. I mean, again, I know this is something we've mentioned in the past, and it's certainly something that I'd like to proceed with exploring if anybody wants to help me do that, or Mr. Mayor, if you have no objections to me doing some more research into that.
So I have no objections to that. If you would like to research and present something to the council, that would be great. I would encourage you, if you wish, to choose one other council member to help you with it, if you can find someone willing to do so. Of course, obviously with rules of open meetings, you would be restricted to just one other elected official for that. But yes, if you'd like to put something together and present, I think it's always good for us to hear new ideas and see where we can help. So,
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And that is all from me this evening. So thank you again.
very good. Thank you, Councilman Vigliotti. Councilman Hale, I see you've joined us with your handsome face. Do you have a report for us this evening? You're muted, sir.
Thank you. Just a couple things. The park equipment has been started, the installation down at the THS Park. It should be finished next week. And I'm glad we finally got resolved on the park impact fee. It's been decades in the mix. Jim and I were on the council the last time we talked about this, I think, Jim. So it's good that we're putting something to bed. And I appreciate everybody helping do that.
All right. Thank you very much. My report will be fairly brief. As you can imagine, the schedules are still kind of light with everything going on. I will mention after the passing of former Mayor Bob Flickinger, there was a fund put in place in his name with the city regarding the planting of trees in our parks. And at this time, we've received about $1,250 for trees in the parks. My understanding is that there is a possible plan of putting a grove of trees into Flickinger Park in his memory. So anything received, that is an intention. I believe there's also the idea of maybe putting a bench or something in there and creating a small memorial in that way. So I appreciate everyone who did donate to that. It is much appreciated in his memory, and the city will be sure to memorialize him in whatever way we can. I do want to propose to council, if I may, as we speak about the former mayor, there is currently a plaque in his name at Memorial Park. It is beneath a tree that I believe was planted as part of his legacy, and there is a misspelling on that plaque. And I'm not sure how it ever happened, but I would like to ask council for their permission to pursue having that plaque replaced with one without the misspelling. Is everyone in agreement that that be done? Very good. So we'll direct staff to look into the replacement of that plaque, whether we do the same. I would recommend the one that is there is one that is kind of flush with the ground. It'd be great if we can find one that maybe sits up a little more so it's not so buried all the time. But I think that would be a great thing in his memory to at least fix the misspelling on that plaque. Kind of an embarrassment in a little bit. Myself, I do have a legislative committee meeting for MML on Wednesday morning. They did mention that despite the request made from the state, there is a record number of bills having been submitted for this session. Even though it was requested that they keep it light, they did the opposite. So it's going to be an interesting session. We'll see what comes up. I've heard mumblings of different things. Obviously, police reform is a big thing this year. There are a lot of bills coming through seeking various types of police reform, some fairly simple, others quite drastic. In addition, there are, I think the budget's going to be rather tumultuous for the state. But with that, we'll see where legislative committee lands, and I'll bring you updates as I hear them. And really, I don't have much else to report. We do have the election coming up, so everyone kind of keep that in mind. If your seat is up and you're running again, I wish you luck. Anyone else who wishes to run for a seat, I encourage you to look into it. Feel free to call anyone on council. We'd be happy to tell you what it's like. But with that, if there's nothing else from the council, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion from Councilwoman Fuller, second from Mayor Pro Tem Foster. All in favor of adjourning, signify with your thumbs up. Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Have a great night, everybody.